Last episode I talked about living in the Mauni Baba's cave in Rishikesh on the other side of the Ganga on the way to Nilkant Parvat with Sri Babaji. So many things happened. I learnt a lot staying there. I was taught so many scriptures and so on. But there are one or two moving incidents which happened, which I would like to talk about now. One is that one day we set out from Rishikesh along the banks of the Ganga on the small little path that runs on the side towards the Vashishta Gufa. I have mentioned before about Vashishta Gufa and also about the Arundhati cave. So Babaji said, let's go and spend 2 days at the Arundhati cave. So we walked along the path on the Ganga and arrived quite late in the evening because we started a little late from Mauni Baba's cave. By the time we had reached there, for some reason, also because we had walked for complete stretch without stopping anywhere, my body was aching, especially my legs below the knees were really paining, and I was wondering what to do because normally as soon as you reach a place, I am supposed to set up the dhuni, I am supposed to clean up the place. This is part of my training or duties. So I was just thinking now, anyway, Babaji has asked me to do something and I will do it. So in spite of being tired and with pain in my knees and legs, I cleaned up everything, went and cut some dead branches of some trees, dried up, lit the dhuni and everything, and then I sat down to meditate. What happens is after some time, the dhuni fire becomes less strong. I mean, the flames go off and there are only the cinders burning. So you can only see a glow and the rest of the place is dark. So after lighting the dhuni, I sat down and meditated. Food, we had carried some soaked chanas in the kamandalu. So we ate the chanas. They are a very good source of protein and carbohydrates, and you immediately get a lot of energy. You have to overnight soak chana and eat it in the morning and drink the water. So after that, I sat down and after about an hour or so I sat and meditated. Babaji as usual was sitting in front of the fire. After meditation, this usually happens to most people. You sit and meditate, and when you feel peaceful and relaxed, then the body says, why don't we relax a little more? So we usually lie down. We say, it's paining here, let me lie down and meditate so that I will be free of the distractions and disturbances. So I also did the same thing. I said, now it's very nice, so let me stretch my legs and meditate. So I stretched my legs, lay down, meditated, and as usual, fell asleep. It always happens when you are meditating sitting down, and when you decide to meditate lying down, after a while from meditation you shift to sleep. So I also fell asleep. Now late in the night, I think I must have slept around 2-3 hours. I woke up with the fear that something was trying to pull my legs, tug my legs. Now in that area, as I told you before, in those days leopards used to wander around. So I immediately got the suspicion either a bear or a leopard was trying to pull my legs, but I opened my eyes and Babaji was sitting very close to me. I tried to get up and I found that my right leg was on his lap. So and Babaji said, let jao. So when I looked, I found that it was not a wild animal trying to pull me away. My right leg was on Babaji's lap. and he was massaging the foot at the calf muscles with his hands. I think he was an expert masseur. It was so wonderful. He was massaging the feet, and he said, so I was terrified, I was horrified. I said, how is this possible? I am supposed to massage his feet and he is massaging my feet. So I said, Babaji, what are you doing? He said, Chup, so jao, aram karo. So I had no option other than to lie down. And maybe he did something because he touched me on the head and I fell asleep. Morning I woke up and said to Babaji, you should not have done this. The Guru is not supposed to massage the disciple's feet. The disciple is supposed to massage the Guru's feet. He said, in our connection there is no such thing. I try to assuage the pain of all human beings, living beings. It doesn't matter they are Guru or disciple or teacher or conductor or anything. It's all the same to me. This was a very touching experience for me, because why would someone want to go out of the way and help someone who is his own disciple? Normally it is the other way around. That taught me a great lesson, that out of humility and affection you can really affect somebody's heart rather than force. And this was not an attempt to win me over, because he had already won me over. The very fact that someone is capable of doing such a thing shows his spiritual refinement and his spiritual advancement on the path. That is one experience. The other was, one day we were sitting in Mauni Baba's cave as usual. I was looking at Babaji. He was talking. And then suddenly he asked me, in the relationship between you and me, what do you think about yourself? I said, I think of myself as a dog sitting before his master and looking. He said, only don't shake your tail too much. So I said, all right, I won't. And then he laughed, I laughed, and it went off. So one day we were sitting like that. Suddenly he said to me, it looks to me as if you are getting too attached to my physical appearance and my body. It's not a good thing, because what I am trying to do is to train you to be free. Now, to be free also means to be independent and not dependent upon somebody. So, I am trying to teach you to stand on your own feet. So, a dependence upon me, which is caused due to your attachment towards my physical figure and frame, in a way is an obstacle to your freedom. You are getting conditioned, tied up, rather than becoming free. So, I said, so he said, you must leave me and go away somewhere for some period and figure out for yourself how you can live without me. Now, all this he explained, but all I heard was, now you can pack your things and go. Naturally, I was very upset. First I was angry, then I was upset, because I had broken all ties with my family at home, and I had come out of everything, had burned my bridges. There was no going back, or so I thought. And here he says, now you go away. It's almost like saying, get out. So I was very upset in a way. Then first I thought I will plead with him. And when you are young, you see, you have a certain rebellious streak to your character. So I said, no, I am not going to reason with him or plead with him. He says, go, so I'll go. I know how to survive. So I took my cloth bag and my blanket, my kamandalu, tied the other blanket across, did pranams, prostrated before Babaji, and without looking at him, started walking. I didn't turn back to see what he was doing or whether he was looking at me. I was in what you might call, I was in a huff. So I walked out and I thought I will go to Uttarkashi or Gomukh or Gangotri or somewhere. So I went along the Tehri road. There's one road from Munikireti which goes through Tehri towards Uttarkashi and Gangotri, Gomukh, and the other road goes to Badrinath. So I took the road towards Gomukh, towards Gangotri. Idea was, I thought maybe I'd go and stay sometime in Uttarkashi, which I had never visited before. So I started out. I must have walked for about an hour or so. It was very beautiful because as you approach the Chandrabhaga river, which is now shut off and diverted by the Tehri Dam, you see only pebbles there. It used to be a beautiful river, Chandrabhaga river. On the banks of the river you could see peacocks dancing. And of that day I also saw an albino, white peacock dancing, and it was so fascinating. You know that among the many animals and birds, it's the male bird that dances. The peahen doesn't dance, it just keeps his tail down and walks around. But the peacock is the one that spreads his tail and dances. So I've seen many peacocks there. So I was watching that and enjoying myself and walking along. In between I heard somebody saying, "Oh Maharaj, ruko." So I turned. It was one of the sadhus who was also going to Uttarkashi. So I folded my hands and told him, "Look, I don't want to network with you, I don't want to talk to you. Silent, you go, I go." He went off, because otherwise what happens is, sometimes you come across a fellow traveler, then he starts talking to you and then the whole thing, I know where to eat, then you get caught up again in this. Better to be alone in such circumstances. I remember meeting a sadhu who said he was an ex-judge and he'd become a sannyasin, and he said, go to Guptakashi, this, that and all. I knew from the first time he began that it was all a pack of lies. So finally I had to say, please go your way, I'll go my way. So this time also I said, I am going my way, you go your way, and escaped. So he went off. So I was alone again. It's very beautiful actually to be alone and free, walking near the banks of a river or near the mountains. Anyway, so then suddenly it started raining. Now when it starts to rain, now that I don't have an umbrella, I have no place to hide. So I said to myself, this is how a wandering yogi lives. When it rains, you get soaked with the water. When the sunshine comes, then it will dry. So don't bother about it. And it was lightly raining, so I walked in the rain without attempting to hide in any place. I went for a distance again, maybe another half an hour or so. And then the sun came out. And then the clothes, my body became dry because of the sunlight. In the Himalayas, when the sun comes out, if you are exposed to the sun, it's usually quite hot during the day, except in the upper heights. So I became dry. I said, this is how a yogi lives. When it rains, you're wet. When the sun comes, you're dry, and so on. And walked along. Then I started chanting the Gita to myself. After a while, I came through a small path, the banks of the Ganga. I thought I heard somebody walking behind me. First thought was, must be one more sadhu who's coming. Now how to avoid, how to escape. Then the steps came nearer and nearer. And then they stopped near. I also stopped. In my mind I had a suspicion, maybe Babaji is coming to call me back. I said, no, this is not possible. So I put it away. And then I heard that unmistakable voice calling very tenderly and sweetly, Madhu. Now when Babaji said that word, it sounded completely different from simply saying Madhu. That was the name he had given me when he initiated me into the Nath Panth, Madhukar Nath, and he was fond of calling me Madhu. So it was definitely Babaji. And he moved closer and he put his hand on my shoulder. I had half a mind not to turn, but it was irresistible to turn, so I turned. Babaji asked me, "To kahan ja rahe ho? Where are you going?" I said, "Somewhere I am going. You told me to go, so I am going. What does it matter where I am going? I am going." "Oh," he said, "so you are going because I asked you to go." I said, "Yeah, I am going because you asked me to go." "So which means if I ask you to come back, you will come back?" You know, I had a tough fight in my mind. I wanted to actually say, "No, I won't come back. Why should I come back?" But finally I said, "Yes, I will come back." So he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Let's go back to Moni Baba's cave." So we walked back. That was my first experience when Babaji said, "Get out." And I was, so while we were walking, Babaji asked me, "How did you feel when you were away from me?" I said, "In the beginning I was feeling a little sad, but afterwards I was beginning to enjoy the freedom of walking without anybody, all alone." He said, "This is exactly what I wanted you to learn, and in future times may come when you will have to live alone, go away somewhere. It's not always possible for you to be with me." I said, "Understood." So now what? He said, "Now we are going back to Moni Baba's cave because I need to teach you certain things." So we went back to Moni Baba's cave. It took us 2 hours to reach there, 2-3 hours. We reached Moni Baba's cave, and that evening and the next evening, for the next 3 evenings, I had wonderful lessons on the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is a textbook on the practice of yoga, which was written by Swa Atma Rama, who was a Nathpanthi, who came from the Nathpanth, which is also my parampara. Now, I had already explained to you that the Nathpanth considers Shiva himself as Adinath, the beginner, the founder of the system. From that, Matsyendranath, then Gorakhnath, and then several other Naths. Now, also, if it was not for the Nathpanthis, much of the yogic knowledge would have been lost. They were the ones who saved yoga, revived it, wrote so many textbooks on the practice of yoga, because otherwise, when the bhakti movement was on, it would have been rubbed off. Because in the bhakti movement, people believe that if you call God with all your heart and love God, that is enough, you don't have to practice. That's one way of life, but that doesn't mean that it is suited for everybody. The other is the pure Vedantin who believes that everything is an illusion, Maya, Brahma Satyam and Jagat Mithya, and that there is only Brahman that exists and you are part of that Brahman and so on. Now this theoretically may appear to be wonderful, but in practice it's really difficult to practice. You can't say the world is Maya and go and stand before a running train. You know Maya, it's a real thing coming. It means something else. Maya, it has been misinterpreted for many years. The world is an illusion and there is only one truth, the Brahman. Actually, the meaning is, Maya means things are not what you think they are. It's not as if they don't exist. They exist. But they exist, maybe they exist very different from what you think they are. So when you think they are what you think they are, then it is an illusion. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. The world exists, but not the way we think it exists. This is the meaning of the theory of Maya, not that nothing exists. If nothing exists, you don't have to eat, drink, you don't have to sleep, nothing. This is impossible. So theoretically, yes, Vedanta explains this, but it has been misinterpreted at some point. Now, it also means the mistaken concept of saying something is not permanent, but something being not permanent does not mean that it does not exist. It does not mean that the world is an illusion, it means that the world is impermanent. So, it is there for some time, and after some time it does not exist, which is true of us also. We are here today. All this I learned that day in the next 3 days in the Babaji's cave while we were discussing the Hatha Yoga Pratipika. When we also know that we don't exist for all time, although we like to. I think people think that they will live forever. Nobody lives forever, everybody goes. All the great people who have come, talked about immortality have also gone. Nobody is going to remain. It's temporary, it's not permanent. So the discrimination in Vedanta is between what is permanent and what is impermanent. And most of all the world that we see is impermanent, including ourselves. The question next is there something that is permanent? Vedanta says the essence of this world, essence of our consciousness is the only permanent thing, everything else is impermanent. That is the meaning. It's not that it does not exist. When you are alive now and in the waking state, it definitely exists. You can't say it does not exist. Okay. Now, other thing is, in the discussion on Hatha Yoga, Babaji explained to me what it means, because some people have a wrong notion. They think Hatha Yoga is physical exercise. Hatha Yoga is to do with yoga for the body only. It's not true. The word Hatha Yoga comes from 2 syllables, Ha and Tha. Ha and Tha, which means, according to yogic anatomy and physiology, in the human system, there are 3 main nadis. This is the essence of the Hatha Yoga Pratipika. One is the left nadi, which is called the Ida nadi, and the right, which is called the Pingala nadi, and the central one, which is called the Sushumna nadi. Now, anatomically, if you look at it medically, the left nadi is the left ganglionic chain, right nadi is the right ganglion, and the Sushumna nadi is the central channel, which is the spinal cord, starting from the bottom of the spine and reaching the cerebrum through the cerebellum. These are the 3 nadis. Now, the nadi which is on the right, called Pingala, is referred to as Ha, and the nadi that is in the left, which is the Ida nadi, is called Tha. So, the Ida nadi is supposed to be cool. Tha represents the moon, and Ha, which is the Pingala nadi on the right, is considered to be hot, which means represented by the sun. Now, this hot and cold, combining this heat and the cold, which means bringing the Ida nadi, the prana, the energy that is going through the Ida and Pingala to the Muladhara, neutralizing it and making it go through the Sushumna nadi to this Sahasrara chakra, which is in the top of the head, is the process of Hatha Yoga. It's not as if it is physical exercise. Now, asanas are important in Hatha Yoga because they keep the body healthy, and without keeping the body healthy, you cannot keep the mind healthy. Can you imagine meditating with pains here and there and with ill health? It's not possible. At least in the beginning stages, it's not possible. So, Hatha Yoga through asanas and postures aims to keep the body fit, strong and healthy. 1. Second, it also applies soothing massage or soothing vibrations to the spinal cord. You will see that in any asana, either you bend this way or you bend this way. And some asanas you stand upside down. Why? Because very often we suffer from less circulation of blood in the brain region, because most of the time we are walking. Even if we lie down, it's only horizontal. But if you can some way reverse, then a lot of blood flow comes into the brain. Of course, if you have high BP and so on, it's not be done, but generally for a healthy individual. Which is also the reason why we are asked to bow our heads down when you go to temples or when you see a holy person. Say, bend your head down, because when you bend your head down, one is you are showing that, well, I have surrendered. The other is actually is good for us because it increases the circulation of blood. So even if there is no holy man or temple, you can shut the door in your empty room and few times go up and down. It's a good thing. It makes the blood circulate in the brain. And in meditation, you are not putting the mind into some kind of a lethargic sleep. In meditation, the mind is calm and quiet, but it is very alert. It's not as if it has gone to sleep. Then it is sleep, it is not meditation. So these are some of the things in Hatha Yoga. So when Swatma Rama wrote the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, he devised the asanas and the pranayam, the breathing techniques which are required to make the prana neutralize between the Ida and the Pingala and go through the Shushumna Nadi. So I learnt all this that day at the cave of Mauni Baba. He also taught me the Sat Chakra Nirupana, which is another textbook on the practice of yoga, and the Goraksha Shataka, which has 100 verses on the practice of yoga, purported to be authored by Gorakhnath, the great yogi who belonged to the Nath Parampara. So, having studied all that, I will now in the next step describe our trip to Uttarakashi, which is quite a distance away on the way to Gangotri.